Salute, salute, bow. Nocturnal thoughts, man. Real quick video, then I'm gonna get out y'all way. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, leave me a comment so we can talk about some boxing. Today's video, I gotta talk about David Benavides, the red flag, the Mexican monster. And I gotta ask this question. Why do people, and specifically, why do black people fuck with David Benavides? I also have to ask this question because 903 Boxing with the host, Charles J. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He asked this question before on a few videos back a couple of days ago. He said, black people, I don't even know if it was a question, but he said, black people fuck with David Benavides heavy. And black people fuck with, Caleb Plant for whatever reason. John B, But so this also, just side note, when I thought of this video, I thought of 903 Boxing with the host Charles J. Bow, bow. But I was listening to the Brian Custer Last Standing podcast, and he was doing a quick little interview. It was at the press conference between David Benavides and Caleb Plant, but it seemed like it was just released recently. And Brian Custer, he asked David Benavides, just naturally, he asked him, why do people fuck with David Benavides? And it kind of, made me think like, man, Brian Custer normally is very presidential and official, polite, nice and neat, and professional. His vernacular and his vocabulary is usually sophisticated, and it's usually nice and neat, not a lot of, profanity, not a lot of vulgar language. But he just asked him straight out, why do people fuck with David Benavides? And like I said, Charles J at 903 Boxing, he also kind of pondered the question, why black people get down so heavy with David Benavides and Caleb Plant? Well, Caleb Plant, he John B. John B was accepted by us because, Tupac, are you still down? And he had a talent. Caleb Plant has a talent, and he fights in a way that some people, not me, but some people would say is more of a black style of fighting, but I really don't subscribe to that. But I've heard enough people, and I understand where they come from, where they say that Caleb Plant traditionally fights like a black person, right? But his whole style, his whole demeanor, we've seen background on his upcoming, or his growing up and everything like that. We've seen the way Caleb Plant is, to where, you can understand why he identifies with himself a certain way, and it really doesn't have, I wouldn't say, much to do with race. It's just his personality, his character. It is what it is. I'm gonna digress. I'm not gonna harp on that for too long. Same thing with David Benavides. I think Mike Tyson co-signing and vouching for David Benavides and calling him the Mexican monster, I think that made a big difference as well. When I seen David Benavides beat up the dog Anthony Durrell, I knew he was sort of going to be a problem. Listening to his interviews, also Real Talk Boxing likes David Benavides. Go subscribe to Real Talk Boxing, and go subscribe to 903, and go subscribe to Brian Custer, of course. Listening to David Benavides do interviews, I think that black people started to gravitate towards his personality because he was so blatant, calling out Jamar Charlo. And I know I heard Jamar Charlo say some stuff like he's not old enough and he has to go get tested for COVID. Charlo also acted like he didn't want to give him a lot of respect and call him the Mexican monster, and he called him out. But He never just really called him out that aggressively. He really, Jamar Charlo always kind of focused on Canelo. I want to fight Canelo. And I think where I started to gravitate towards David Benavides is he was one of the first boxers, even though he has Canelo on his radar, he said something that made sense to me. He said, I'm young in my career. These guys got to worry about me as far as them getting older. I want to fight everybody. If I don't get that fight with Canelo, he want to fight Jamar Charlo. He want to fight Demetrius Boo Andrade. He want to fight Darrell. I think that's Darrell he was calling out. But he was just, to me, he was talking like a real fighter that wants to fight everybody. And if it gets to a point where he can fight Canelo, he'll fight that fight too. And then also, a lot of people I think gravitated towards David Benavides because Canelo was like the face of boxing. Canelo is still somewhat the face of boxing, but that's kind of starting to fade away. But Canelo being the face of boxing, and Canelo saying he doesn't want to fight a Mexican fighter, the majority of people is going to look at the most dangerous Mexican fighter that's a threat and just look at David Benavides. And then when David Benavides was like, yeah, I want to fight him, and Canelo was like, nah, I'm going to fight John Ryder, I'm going to go fight this guy, that guy, then it just makes David Benavides even bigger without him having to just sit there and chase around Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Like Canelo didn't say, I don't want to fight no more African-American fighters. Then everybody would have looked at Jamar Charlo. Even though, our people looking at Jamar Charlo. But when Jamar Charlo is not like, he's not really active as much for whatever his hiatus is, then, people quickly start to, boxing is what have you done for me lately. So people start being like, hey man, Jamar ain't doing nothing, let's look at Jamel. And if we ain't trying to go that route and look at Jamel, and you looking at the 168, you're gonna gravitate towards David Benavides. You got Mike Tyson co-signing for him. You got him knocking out guys. You got him talking the type of talk that's aggressive. You know what I'm saying? That's blunt, straightforward. You know what I'm saying? Primal. Like, I'm gonna fuck you up, I'm gonna beat your ass, I'm gonna put you in the hospital and shit like that. He's a good shit talker. Kind of like Nate Diaz. People compare him to Nate Diaz. When he talks that shit, it's just like, it's funny to hear him talk shit. Because he mean what he say. And the only thing is, like when he was doing the press conference and he was reading off of his phone, that was a little different for me. But other than that, his personality, I like his personality. So I think that's why people fuck with David Benavides, is because he just, straight up, no nonsense, want to go out there and fight everybody. He's not just talking about, jewelry and clothes and cars. Not nothing wrong with that, but I don't never hear him really just talking about how much money he make. Maybe he has, but I haven't heard him talk about some of the things that make you not be interested in a boxer. Like when a boxer is asked, would you fight this person? And you'd be like, well, the money got to be right. Then you're not really interested in who they gonna fight next. You know what I'm saying? Like when you ask a boxer, well, do you want to fight this guy? And then the first thing he got to say is, well, I'd rather go fight this person than this person first, and I'd rather go fight this person first. Like he's kind of cherry picking. Then you kind of get less interested if those opponents aren't great opponents. If they easier opponents, or if it's opponents that they're going to beat. You know what I'm saying? Then you lose a little bit of interest in that person. By the way they respond in different interviews. So I just think the package that David Benavides has, where he talks his shit, the way he fights, his progression, his road to where he is now, I think the road that he's taken, he's just been able to, garner that attention through different ways. Like I said, through the Canelo, not wanting to fight Mexicans, through Mike Tyson coining him, dubbing him the Mexican Monster, through Jamar Charlo, kind of not directly wanting to fight him, saying, the COVID and the age thing. through what he's done in the ring, beating guys like Darrell, beating, I think, the other guy he beat, I can't remember his name, but I just recently was watching. But I think it's just a culmination of those things that has made David Benavides' name start to have a little bit more old school feeling, old school boxer feeling. And then also, you got to have a great dance partner. You got to have a great opponent and a great backstory. Caleb Plant also brings a lot of attention because he fought Canelo. He almost got into a fight with Canelo at the press conference. Caleb Plant says a lot of savvy things as well. You know what I'm saying? He has a certain personality that, whether it be a slick style or black style or whatever, his personality in the ring and outside the ring, it does have a certain element of charisma and you know what I'm saying, what they call that gift of gab, that makes you want to pay attention to what his next move is going to be. Like, he just says certain things. He has a certain way of saying certain things. Sometimes it's a little corny. Sometimes it's seems like it's a little out of character. But at the end of the day, that's him. Like when he said that shit about David Benavides' titties, that was to me authentic and genuine. And he didn't smirk. He didn't wait for. He didn't do it and look like I got a good shot in. He just kept a real straight face the whole time. And you know, certain people that's like that can even bring out another emotion in you as well, when they just not like laughing at their own jokes. I like it when somebody can tell a joke that's funny as hell and they don't laugh at their own joke. I always thought that was a good trait to have. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like a poker face type of a thing, where you don't know exactly what he's thinking because he don't just say. Even though he's not perfect, when he was fighting against Canelo, I think it backfired. I think when he was fighting against Canelo, I don't think he was asking for Canelo to critique, like, how good am I doing? I think he was trying to even get up underneath Canelo's skin even more and say, I'm not bad for, I'm not as bad as you thought I was. And I think he thought that was gonna make Canelo, you know, lose a little bit more motivation. But I think it just was a reverse effect. Canelo put his foot on the gas pedal and hurt him and got him out of there. But like I said, I think Caleb Plant learned from that. So, like I say, people, black people, and people like Caleb Plant, because of his backstory, what he went through to get his belt when his daughter was sick, that's definitely pulling at the heartstrings. Listen to his father speak makes me like him. Listening to his wife speak makes me like him. Working with his trainer, Breadman, I think that is also another level of respect I have. The fact that he didn't get soft after he fought Canelo, got a big payday, and didn't get soft and go retire and get out of shape and get fat. I mean, he went back into the grinder and came out even sharper and even more dangerous when he fought Darrell. That makes me respect him on a whole nother level. And he's still kind of consistent with his personality, with his style, with his swag, or lack thereof. I just think Caleb Plant, I like Caleb Plant. You know what I'm saying? I wish him nothing but success. And then the same thing for David Benavides. David Benavides, there's a lot of things about his personality, a lot of things about his little background. His little fat kid when he was younger. I watched interviews when he was a little kid, and you can just kind of see it in his eyes that a lot of people didn't believe in him, but he believed in himself on a different level, and not like cocky, or not like delusional, where he believed in himself despite how garbage he was. He believed in himself, knowing that he better than people really could give him credit for. And now he's kind of like flipping it. He's like flipping the game on his head, where it's like, it's hard to count anybody out like that who, you know, always felt like an underdog his whole life. and then just develop into this crazy, like, monster that's unstoppable. It's hard to see anybody beating that type of a person, because that type of person grew from the inside out. Like, it's different when you have somebody that's like a child prodigy, like a man child that's young, and you see all they gifts when they real young, but you don't know if they're gonna like develop. But they got a whole bunch of people giving them all this attention and saying they the next this, they the next that. Like with Chris Cobra, see him on Netflix videos, Undisputed, and people was already dubbing him the next Floyd Money Mayweather because he looked like he had all the intangibles. And you start sprinkling a little bit too much shine on that at a young age, and you don't know what's going to develop. When you got that little kid that's in the back of the gym, ain't nobody giving him no credit. Really, they're looking at his brother, but they're not looking at him. And he just back there going to work on it and just putting in work and hitting the bag. And he thinking inside his head, one of these days I'm gonna fuck some people up. And he started to make that manifest. That is a dangerous dude, in my opinion. When I see that happening in other people's lives, I always say, you know what? That's the person that people just slept on and slept on and slept on. It made him believe in himself so much, it don't matter what nobody else think. It only matters to him what he thinks. And that's what it's all about. Bow bow.